in the last sort of half a day is talk about Kimi Antonelli to people. Everybody who's messaged me about the sprint has been all about Kimi Antonelli, of course, starting from pole position, Formula One's youngest pole position starter. We'll delve into it all in a second. In fact, let me get my own stream up on the other screen so I don't miss any of it. And also the final day of the championship. If you're a football fan, I was following along. Norwich actually got a result. Not too shabby at all. Hello, Avil. How's it going? Are you currently watching the Formula One? Because it is, it's going to be a weird afternoon, isn't it? Well, might be delayed anyway. Oh. Charles Leclerc hit the wall. Oh my God. I literally just turned it on. Charles Leclerc has hit the wall on the way to the grid. And you can see the debris, his front right and rear right tyres have punctured. He's having to come into the pits. He's lost the front right wing end plate. It is all chaos already. Charles Leclerc has hit the wall on the way to the grid. It is wet. The intermediate tyres are on, but even so, Charles Leclerc has been caught out. Oh my goodness me. And he's stopped by the side of the track. He's not been, and now let's see the onboard of it. He is not going to start this, surely. Just locks up. Oh, and hits the right side of the track pretty heavily. That is a really heavy collision with the barriers for Charles Leclerc as he's coming around. And Charles Leclerc then is going to be out half an hour before it even starts for the sprint race this afternoon in Miami, because he's come to a close. He's had to come to a stop at turn 14. In fact, have I got the detail board up? I have. There you go. Charles Leclerc has come to a stop already. And I haven't even got half the stuff set up. I don't even know what to say. That is just absolutely not what I expected to see him from one of the more experienced drivers out there. I mean, everyone is now taking it insanely slowly as they come around. And now drivers are worrying about the intermediate tyre and whether or not that was the right choice. Charles Leclerc has jumped out of his Ferrari car. It's strawn to the side of turn 14. The rest of the guys making their way around. Goodness gracious me. Right. Let's catch up on things that have been said in the chat, because I have been all over the place. As Ollie Behrman also made a mistake. Ollie Behrman's gone super deep at turn 11 and still can get it going. Had to use the runoff area, a spin in the runoff area for Ollie Behrman as well. Gets his Haas car back on track, but goodness me. Okay. So Charles Leclerc not starting means Hamilton will be up in 6th place from the beginning. Also puts Albon and Hadjar in a much better position to guarantee themselves some points during this sprint race. You know it's raining and Max Verstappen will win. Right, what have people said in the chat? I've missed all of it. Who do I think will win the World Championship? Constructors, McLaren. Drivers. I think there's still 4 drivers in it, you know. Piastri, Norris. Oh, and there's Charles Leclerc. Are we going to get any information? I don't think so. I think Charles Leclerc is just asking about how this works, possibly, and how he can get back to the pits. He's quite far away from the pits, is Charles Leclerc, unfortunately, as the rain is teeming down. Should do a video about how Mercedes is wiping the floor Red Bull and how to properly treat a rookie. Well, yeah, you could say that. I think Kimi Antonelli is a niche case and has come in a very special time. You look at Kimi Antonelli. The problem is Red Bull did what Mercedes are doing with Max Verstappen, didn't they? You know, Max Verstappen was there once in a lifetime, and Kimi Antonelli has been that so far, but it is already absolutely going crazy. Great start from Ferrari. Goodness me. Yeah, it does feel like it's still raining, it's still going, and the drivers are sort of making their way around, some of them ducking back into the grid, into the pits to change from the intermediates to the full wets, because it's just not looking like just got back from a walk. Well, I would normally say you've got 20 minutes until the chaos is going to start, but it's already underway here in Miami. Charles Leclerc has put his Ferrari into the right-hand barrier before the sprint has even got started. He tried to make it all the way back to the pit. The problem was he hit the wall down near sort of turn 9, turn 10. So there's a very long way to go. He managed to get his car round turn 11, 12, and 13, but came to a stop before he got to the chicane at turns 14 and 15. Even if he had made it, he'd still have that whole back straight to get that Ferrari down. And it just wasn't going to happen as the Ferrari car started tearing itself apart. Both the front right and the rear right tyres punctured because of that collision with the wall. Front wing end plate also broken. Parts of the floor were starting to come off. Really is falling apart for Charles Leclerc, and he's come to a stop already. They're probably going to have a look at the barriers down there as well, just ahead of turn 10, just to make sure that they're all okay, because it was a pretty big shunt from Charles Leclerc. I'll keep you updated as it happens, and we'll go back to a little bit of normality in a moment, where I was going to start with a little chat about, what can the sprint do for the Drivers' Championship? What can the sprint do for the Constructors' Championship? But I think we need to keep all eyes peeled on the ridiculousness that is in front of us as the drivers are trying to make their way to the grid. They're not even started racing yet. They're just trying to get their cars to the starting positions, and they can't make it around the track. But how are we? How is everybody? We didn't do the normal introductions. Hello, Kelly. Welcome, welcome. Someone explain. Explain what? There's a lot going on right now. Everybody is in an absolute sort of muddle as they try and get themselves onto the grid, but also realize that they threw the intermediate tires on. Do they go for the full wet weather tires to just get to their grid position? What tire do they then need to start the sprint race on? It's only 19 laps, but it's already looking like it's going to be some of the most eventful 19 laps that we've ever seen. Charles Leclerc into the barriers already. Oh my God. Let's look at the qualifying yesterday, and therefore we can make our way down the grid. As I said, Charles Leclerc in the barriers. Charles Leclerc is not going to take part in the sprint race, you would imagine, because it's going to take more than 20 minutes for that car to get from turn 14 all the way back to the pits, and for the Ferrari team to put it back together again. So Charles Leclerc is out. Hopefully he'll be in. Will he be in when it comes to... I don't even know. I was going to say, hopefully he'll be in for qualifying, but yeah, he should be in for qualifying. Should be in for qualifying, Charles Leclerc. It's just going to be so weird to try and get him there. Yo, speak little loud. Sorry, it was mainly because I was just insanely thrown off by the fact that Charles Leclerc had hit the barriers already. Hello, Ved. How's it going? Miami could get some action. That's a first. I mean, it does look really, really crazy. Weren't expecting this weather. if I'm honest. Was not expecting the rain to... I was expecting maybe a little bit of rain when they started sort of looking at the weather radars, but I didn't realize it was going to be torrential. But it's going to be... I forgot it's Florida. Exactly. It's supposed to be lovely and sunny. The times I've been to Florida, it's been some of the warmest weather I've ever experienced. I mean, I am from England, and therefore this is karma for the awful livery. Yeah, I'll keep you updated. Charles Leclerc, I haven't seen him back in the pits yet, so I'm assuming he's still probably making his way there. Again, quite a long way from the pits was Charles Leclerc when he came to a stop. Thoughts on V-Carb livery? Beautiful. Love the pink. Absolutely top draw, in my opinion. But let's make our way down the starting grid as we normally would. Kimi Antonelli, who I wanted to start today talking about because I've been discussing him so much since that pole position yesterday, with people sending me messages and trying to get a grip. Like, even people who don't watch Formula One very much. I think, you know, Kimi Antonelli is starting to break into that zeitgeist of drivers that even people who don't watch Formula One too often start to know the name of. He's making a real, as we see again, that crash from Charles Leclerc. Kimi Antonelli is making a real name for himself on the Formula One grid and inside the newspapers of Formula One. Then we've got Oscar Piastri just behind, leading the championship, of course, from his teammate Lando Norris, but Lando Norris just behind. I was hoping that this sprint race would be the first opportunity that we'd get to see the McLarens really battling side by side, but with the weather as it is, we know that the McLaren team have said they don't want to get involved. They will not give their drivers team orders. They're willing to let them race, but when you come to this kind of scenario where the weather is so much of a factor, will they really allow Piastri and Norris to race, considering Max Verstappen is right there? He's in full spot. We know that Max Verstappen loves these wet weather conditions. Just go back and watch Brazil last year if you don't need any more reminding of how good Max Verstappen can be in the wet. I just don't know if they allow Piastri and Norris to battle, will that then let Max Verstappen actually claim the victory? And Max Verstappen's not too far off the lead of the championship right now. It is not, you know, inconceivable to see Max Verstappen take the lead of the Drivers' Championship once again. Only 12 points behind Oscar Piastri. Could easily be at the top of the standings by the time this weekend comes to a close. And then we're into the scenario where, again, Max Verstappen, even though the Red Bull car isn't great, is keeping himself in the championship. And then when the big changes come in a few races' time, Max Verstappen right there. And if the Red Bull car gets quicker, will McLaren be kicking themselves? You know, if they do allow Piastri and Norris to race right now and allow maybe them to keep racing in Imola, will they regret that later on in the season when Max Verstappen is just the clear number one at Red Bull, and we'll have all of Red Bull's back in to try and get another championship, a fifth championship in a row? Then just behind that, George Russell starts in 5th place, having a brilliant start to the season. Again, one of the drivers that I don't think is out of the sort of discussion when it comes to the Drivers' Championship. Hello, everybody joining the chat. Hello, Renz. How's it going? Hello, Liam. What's up? They'll make their decision about leads driver soon enough. Do you think so? I think they have to, because I think Max Verstappen and George Russell are such a threat and they're not going to go away. I just don't know if McLaren are going to have that big of a gap to those two behind anyway, as to where it will really matter one way or another, whether they decide on a lead driver or not. But yeah, George Russell starting 5th place. He was a little bit frustrated. I think you can understand that, considering his teammate is starting from pole position. The Mercedes car was looking very, very quick. They just went for a little bit of a different idea, didn't they, with George Russell? Max Verstappen did the same thing, although George then didn't do a second lap, but it kind of played against Verstappen and Russell going out early in that final qualifying session, didn't it? I can see why they did it. You get the track early, you get a lot of clean air, and you don't have to worry about any of the traffic and the possibility of not making it across the line, as we did see with some of the drivers towards the back end of the grid, and we'll get to momentarily. But I think Russell just a bit frustrated because even though Antonelli got all that adulation, I think he knows that he's the better driver at Mercedes right now, and that really should have been him starting on the front row of the grid and possibly even on pole position ahead of his teammate. As I said, Charles Leclerc in the wall. So Charles Leclerc is not going to be taking part in the Miami sprint race for Ferrari. He would have started in 6th place ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton, inside of the points, but disappointingly far away from the championship lead now. I think this is sort of the nail in the coffin for Charles Leclerc's season, really, isn't it? You know, came into this year, we were debating, is it going to be McLaren? Is it going to be Ferrari that are able to tussle with Max Verstappen for the championship this season? Maybe even a McLaren versus Ferrari battle for the championship. Hasn't turned out like that at all, has it? The Ferrari's been nowhere near the quality we were expecting from them, considering how well they did at the end of last season. And if you're a Ferrari fan, I can only just apologize for, again, like, why did they decide to completely redesign that Ferrari car over the winter break? You know, take that car and improve on it. Yes. Take that car and completely redesign it once again for an entire new season, and then come out of the blocks with the car not really ready to go yet. Yeah, annoying if you're a Ferrari fan, and even more annoying if you're a Charles Leclerc fan, because he is not going to be taking part in this sprint race, and you're not going to see him until qualifying later on. How did Charles Leclerc crash? Was just going around turn 9 through turn 10. And lost control, the intermediate tires, bit of aquaplaning effectively, was trying to get on the power, maybe just get a little bit of temperature through the tires, because you do need the intermediates to warm up a touch, even with the rain coming down. And yeah, just completely lost control of his Ferrari car. Hit the wall on the right-hand side of the track. A big shunt as well. Took the front wing end plate off. Punctured the front right and the rear right tire. Took a little bit of the floor with it. Like, it was a big collision that Charles Leclerc had. And a mistake that is going to cost him the possibility at, 3 points he would have got for finishing in 6th place. But I know it's not a lot of points, but considering they were also disqualified from China, it's just looking bad to worse to absolutely dreadful for Ferrari and Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton still in the mix, but would have started 7th place anyway, which is kind of last of that top bracket. Because Yuki Tsunoda, I don't think we can say he's really in that top bracket yet, even though he's in the Red Bull car. So Hamilton starting 7th out of top 7. Annoying for Hamilton still. Not really the season start that he would have wanted either. Alex Albon then shifts up into 7th place, and another couple of points available to Alex Albon. Already best of the rest in the driver's standings this season. Started from 8th, would have been starting from 8th place, which was a point anyway. I just don't know how much more praise we can give Alex Albon. He looks so good in that Williams car at the moment, and Williams at the moment looking like they've come into this season on a completely different level. Just goes to show that the massively dramatic start they had to the season last year not only sort of set them back in terms of their progression, set them back in terms of that season, but just completely killed any momentum they had. And even when they did get the upgrades on the car and then Logan Sargent smashed the car up again, it was an absolute disaster class from Williams last year and so much damage done to their cars. But now they've had a winter break where they've actually settled in. Now they've had a winter break where they can properly focus on the car rather than the behind the scenes factors. You know, they completely re-engineered how they designed the car last year, so that this year could be better, and they're reaping the rewards of it now. They do look like the midfield team to beat at the moment. Isaac Hadjar then just behind, and I jinxed it, didn't I? I said yesterday before the sprint qualifying, I think Isaac Hadjar for me had been the best rookie so far that season. this season, sorry. I said that Hadjar had been the best rookie so far this season. And then Kimi Antonelli puts in a pole position inside of the Mercedes car and just absolutely shuts me up, doesn't he? You know, Isaac Hadjar, he's been brilliant, though. I think very underrated Isaac Hadjar, already being talked about as possibly going into that second Red Bull seat. Not until next season at the earliest. We know that Yuki Tsunoda should be given the whole season. Whether he is, it's Red Bull. We'll never really know what Helmut Marko and Christian Horner are thinking until they let us know what they're thinking. It really is impossible to tell. But Isaac Hadjar, been very, very impressed with him. And again, possible points on the cards for him. He'll be starting in 8th place effectively. Fernando Alonso, the man closest to him, got through to Q3 yesterday. Oh, is Charles Leclerc okay? Yeah, Charles Leclerc's okay. It's just his car is not. And he will not be taking part in the sprint race in about 10 minutes time. Fernando Alonso, I was looking at the owl. Fernando Alonso, 10th place, effectively now 9th, so 1 place off the points. It would be his first points of the season. We know that Aston Martin are focused on 2026, but even so, Fernando Alonso, he's a competitor at heart, isn't he? He wants to get those points on the board. He will not be happy that his teammate is beating him by 10 points in the Drivers' Championship at the moment. So Alonso will be eyeing up one of those point scoring places, especially considering we are into a wet weather race. Maybe he can get the better of Isaac Hadjar, just using the fact that he's got all of that experience compared to Isaac Hadjar's 5 races in Formula One. Let's see what we can do there. Then just behind that, the 5 drivers that dropped out in Q2 yesterday: Nico Hülkenberg, Esteban Ocon, Pierre Gasly, Liam Lawson, and Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz, probably the most frustrated of those 5, just didn't get a clean lap in, and therefore dropped out. We didn't really get to see the pace that Carlos Sainz had. Would have likely been in the mix, you would imagine, for that top 10 and maybe closer to Alex Albon had he been able to get a lap in, but that wasn't the case. And then the 5 drivers that dropped out in Q1, it was a real shambles in Q1 yesterday. Stroll, Doohan, Bortoleto, Behrman, and Tsunoda. You'll notice Tsunoda has dropped back a few places from where he effectively qualified, but just starting with Jack Doohan, because he was so annoyed with the Alpine team yesterday. You can see the pressure mounting on Jack Doohan now. Okay, we've been told that he's going to stay in that Alpine seat until the summer break, but as I kind of mentioned, your seat is only as good as your last race, effectively. Jack Doohan yet to score points so far this season. Pierre Gasly hasn't been incredible either. It felt like Pierre Gasly was sort of gaining momentum, but then dropped out in Q2 here in Miami anyway. Didn't have an amazing Saudi Arabian Grand Prix weekend. So it's a weird place for Jack Doohan to be right now. And I can understand the frustration from Jack Doohan's perspective. Bortoleto and Behrman just behind. Behrman a weird one as well. Expecting a little bit more from him here in Miami, but just didn't seem to click with the car. Only the 1 free practice session seemed to get underneath him. And I think that's the thing with Ollie Behrman. When he's had weekends that have been a little bit fractious, where he has missed a free practice 1 or missed a free practice 2, he has just been a little bit off of it, which is weird considering he jumped in such last minute last time around, didn't he? You know, he was called up last minute when he replaced Carlos Sainz. He was called up last minute when he replaced Kevin Magnussen in Brazil. It was just like, we expect him to be a little bit better even with the lack of practice. But this year, when he's missed practice sessions and hasn't quite been there in the practice sessions, Ollie Behrman has really, really struggled. And then Yuki Tsunoda has dropped to the back of the pack. The Red Bull team deciding to swap up some settings on that Red Bull car, change some things around whilst under parc ferme conditions, so getting themselves a penalty and dropping Tsunoda down to 20th. I think hoping that qualifying will therefore be better. Tsunoda got, I want to say, a little bit unlucky in qualifying yesterday. It was the first time that he's dropped out in Q1. I know he's only had 4 Grand Prix in a Red Bull, but it was the first time that he's dropped out in Q1 in a Red Bull. Still not 100% there yet. did get caught out by Ollie Behrman leaving the pits on his first flying lap and then went deep into turn 17. And then his second qualifying lap, it was actually his teammate Max Verstappen, who he was asked to get out of the way of. But then Max Verstappen also made a mistake down to turn 17. That cost Yuki Tsunoda time, and Tsunoda didn't get across the start-finish line to start a second flying lap before the checkered flag had been waved. So a frustrating one for Yuki Tsunoda. I wouldn't say that that's going to guarantee him dropping out in Q1 again. I think this could be a Yuki Tsunoda dropping out of Q1 in the sprint and then maybe come qualifying actually gets himself into Q3. I'd expect him to be in that top 10. Maybe, you know, only 8th or 9th in that top 10, but in the top 10 nonetheless. We are, yes, 5 minutes away from sprint racing here in Miami. It's going to be wet. It's going to be weird. It's going to be wild. And I can't predict, to be honest, what's going to happen. I think Kimi Antonelli, starting from pole position, you'd back him to convert that into a victory if it was dry. But with it being wet weather, with it being possibly full wet tires worth of conditions, you know, he's so young and he's so inexperienced and he's been elevated into Formula One so quickly. I want to doubt him, but then on the other flip side, he's been so good this season and he put it on pole position for a reason. He's been quick. So there's two sides of the coin to Kimi Antonelli, and I'm not sure which side I'm going to flip onto when this sprint race does get underway. As I say, Piastri versus Norris, also a lovely battle happening behind. Whether or not Max Verstappen can get the better of the McLarens and get himself right back into the discussion when it comes to the Drivers' Championship. Like, if Max Verstappen wins this and, say, Piastri and Norris take one another out, Lando Norris would actually drop to 3rd in the Drivers' Championship, and Verstappen would be right there behind Piastri once again, going into a Grand Prix that Max Verstappen is pretty good at. Like, Max Verstappen has won in Miami a good chunk of times. The only reason that Norris won here last year was quite a lucky safety car. So Max Verstappen does like it around here, and he loves the wet weather conditions. There we are then, confirmation of some of the tyres coming through. Verstappen starting on the intermediates as the majority of the grid are. Charles Leclerc, of course, missing from that graphic, will not be starting the sprint race. And that Ferrari car being fixed as we speak to hopefully get it done for qualifying. Carlos Sainz, the only driver starting on the full wet tyre, maybe gambling that it's going to keep getting wetter and wetter. Has Max ever claimed victory in a race in 22? What does that mean? As in the year 2022? Yeah, he won a good chunk of them. Very, very good chunk of them. Think everyone underestimated these rookies? I think it was a bit of a middle ground. I think some of the rookies were very overestimated and some of the rookies were very underestimated. Isaac Hadjar, super underrated. Even I was a bit like, yeah, okay, I can understand why he's got that place on the grid, but had Sergio Perez had a better season, he wouldn't have got that place. You know, I'd have still picked Tsunoda and Lawson over Hadjar. Now, he has completely switched my mind on that. I think Isaac Hadjar is having an absolutely brilliant start to the season. And would you now choose Isaac Hadjar in the form that he's in over Liam Lawson or over Yuki Tsunoda? Maybe, quite possibly. There's definitely an argument for it. I meant 2025. Yes, indeed he has. He won in Japan, did Max Verstappen. What happened to Charles? Hit the wall coming through turn 9 and turn 10, breaking the front right, breaking the right-hand side of that Ferrari. It was a big shunt with the wall. Tried to get his car back around, but unfortunately had to come to a stop at turn 14. So Charles Leclerc will not be taking part in this one. Let's head over to the race board, though, because we are going to get underway fairly soon with the formation lap. And the formation lap is going to be behind the safety car that is just being said on there. So safety car will be taking the cars round. Kimi Antonelli then at the front of the pack for the first time in his Formula One career, the youngest pole sitter in Formula One history. It's just a sprint race, is what people will say. And yes, I understand that. That's fair enough. But at the same time, an absolutely incredible performance from the youngster last time out. And possibly on for a first victory in Formula One. We saw Oscar Piastri get a sprint victory in his first season for McLaren. Can Kimi Antonelli match the current world championship leader? And are we looking at another driver in the vein of Oscar Piastri that in a couple of years' time, if Mercedes can evolve as McLaren have, maybe we're looking at a Kimi Antonelli world championship lead. That is very much in the future. Let's focus on today. The formation lap is underway. And the rain is teeming down, the spray coming off the back of these Formula One cars as they're being taken around by the safety car. Kimi Antonelli even pulling to the left-hand side to actually get out of the spray of the safety car in front, just so he can see as he comes to get round turns 11, 12, and 13. The safety car, though, it is impressive, right? These Formula One cars, they look like they're barely moving as they go around behind the safety car. But the safety car going at almost top speed. If you've ever seen Burt Mylander's onboards, he is really ragging everything out of that Aston Martin car. And the Formula One drivers behind look like they're barely moving. And Oscar Piastri, visibility even in P2 is terrible. Big river in turn 10, so not looking positive at all from the Australian's point of view as he comes round towards turn 17. Maybe that what caught Charles Leclerc out, that river, as Piastri called it, down towards turn 10. Oh, and there's Max Verstappen, as Verstappen made a mistake. I think he has. Verstappen is now dropped down behind Russell and Hamilton. Let's see. Verstappen down to turn 17, just doesn't make it. Goes right off into the runoff area. The tyres completely locked up and aquaplaning. So Verstappen losing control of his Red Bull car and losing a couple of positions behind the safety car on this formation lap. Another lap then underneath the safety car as we come around. He is not back in his position. And Kimi Antonelli also letting us know that he can't see anything behind the safety car. And I think that's the thing. The visibility is the thing that is really playing against the drivers right now, as Max Verstappen has finally caught up to the back of Lando Norris, and Russell, Hamilton get out of the way. Albon has to also let Max Verstappen move ahead of him. Yuki in last. Yes, Red Bull decided to make some changes to Yuki Tsunoda's car before, and there we are. The starting procedure, for the race has been suspended. So the starting procedure, as you can see in the graphic there, just under the track map, it has been suspended. So we are going to have to wait a little while longer as the race is red flagged. Yeah, Oscar Piastri, again, just letting the cars know and letting all of the other drivers know that even his visibility is appalling. So they're deciding to stop for a moment. We did have one lap behind the safety car, so that lap will still count towards the 19. But red flag nonetheless, and the cars are going to all come around and slot into the pit lane. Now, will the track dry out in time is the thing. The rain is still coming down. Is this just going to be a sprint race that never happens? Why has there been a red flag? Visibility. Literally, if you watch any of the onboards from that, you just can't see anything effectively. So there's so much spray and so much standing water. It just wouldn't be safe for the cars to race properly. Nobody's crashed. Well, Charles Leclerc has crashed, but that was before the start of the sprint race anyway. And the red flag is indeed confirmed. And that's all 20 drivers into the pits then, just behind. So we have then we are indeed one lap into the Grand Prix, well, sprint race. And let's see. We are in race conditions. And Max Verstappen wanting a change to his headrest inside of the Red Bull car. Annoyance inside of the Red Bull. He'll be seething the fact that he went off at turn 17. Of course, managed to get back into 4th place anyway, but it's a very uncharacteristic mistake from Max Verstappen. And there is Charles Leclerc out of the Ferrari and not taking part in the sprint race. Is rain expected for qualifying? Hopefully not. It is expected to dissipate, but it wasn't supposed to be raining this badly for the sprint race. So I wouldn't want to try and predict the weather at this point in time, if I'm honest with you. It has all come to a close. And Fernando Alonso there out of the Aston Martin car. It's already 11 p.m. I don't think this sprint race is going to get underway anytime soon. Of course, we did have one lap of racing, technically, although it was behind the safety car. So if we do get some racing, it will only be 18 laps, this sprint race. And yeah, you can see George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, both Hamilton more so, getting a little bit out of shape in his Ferrari car as they were coming around into the pit lane through turn 17. George Russell starting ahead of his old teammate, Yuki Tsunoda, starting from the back of the pack. Am I not getting notifications for your channel live? I have no idea. Please don't be like Brazil quali. This isn't quali. This is the full thing. This is supposed to be a sprint race. We've got qualifying to come later today. And that's the thing. How long do they wait? How long do they give it, right? Because we'd much rather these cars were ready for qualifying, to be honest, because that affects the Grand Prix tomorrow, rather than this sprint race here. So, Oscar Piastri putting on a cool vest. Obviously, still feeling a little bit warm even in this weather is Oscar Piastri. Shortest sprint race ever at the moment, most certainly. It is all over with already at the moment. Red flags, no confirmation as to when or if we will get underway with some racing. Isaac Hadjar just, I think, explaining how difficult it was to see to his race engineer there inside of the RB garage. Well, there we are. Red flag it is. Oh. Red flag. And we'll settle in for a little wait on our hands before getting back underway. Lando Norris also deciding to get out of the car. One of the last drivers to commit to getting out of the car. So it's going to be a wet race weekend. It is indeed. Well, if we get any racing at all, we've only got a small window. The thing is, there's other race categories and so on that are also racing in Miami this weekend. So it depends how long they would be willing to wait for this sprint race to get underway. And especially because we do have qualifying later on today anyway. Again, you don't want the teams and the drivers to be underprepared for qualifying because they've had to wait for the sprint race for too long. You can't sort of go straight from sprint race into qualifying. There has to be a gap between the two. So we've got about an hour and a half, I think, is the timer between now and when this sprint race could get underway. But if it doesn't happen in the next 30 to 45 minutes, I would say they will likely just decide against doing the sprint race and possibly cancel it. I don't know whether or not... we don't know really what protocol they've decided on. Would we see the sprint race tomorrow before the Grand Prix? Would the sprint race replace qualifying and then we'd see qualifying before the Grand Prix like we did in Brazil? We'll have to kind of wait and see, really. It's another replay of Charles Leclerc's crash. Such a shame that, like, even with this red flag, because we have done one lap of racing, Charles Leclerc will not be able to rejoin. So even if the Ferrari team were to put Charles Leclerc's car back together again, not looking very likely. It's quite a big shunt for Charles Leclerc, so I would imagine that they are still putting quite a bit of that Ferrari car back together. But it should hopefully be back for qualifying in his Ferrari car. Too much rain happened. Yeah, that is what has happened. Yeah, too much rain, and therefore we have a weight on our hands. Thank you, Gamer Rowan, for subscribing to the channel. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button on our way to 130,000 subscribers. Also, let's hit the like on the stream. Let's get the likes up whilst we wait for the stream to fully resume. We have no confirmation as of yet as to when it will get back underway. Belgium 2021 repeat. That was the full Grand Prix, though. I really hope not. That Belgium 2021 race was just such a long afternoon for absolutely nothing, wasn't it? We got to see 2 laps behind the safety car, and that was effectively it. I mean, we've just seen that, really, in this race. We've seen 1 lap, well, the formation lap behind the safety car and 1 lap of racing behind the safety car. They have, they've sent out a couple of vans to start sweeping some of the standing water off of the race surface. How come no wet tires? Because the wet tires are just so useless that everybody just goes for intermediates anyway. So how's the who could replace Verstappen video going? All actually written and ready to go. Just haven't had the chance to film it yet, which is really annoying. I was going to try and film it yesterday. No, the other 2 days ago in the morning. But ended up having to do a job application because a job came up that I'm interested in, and I need to get a new job in the next few months. So I had to end up doing that, and that took like 3.5 hours. So am I streaming every Formula One race? I am. I stream every single competitive session. One day, I would also like to be in the position where I could also stream the free practice sessions. At the moment, I work on Fridays, so that doesn't really, line up very much. Most of the free practice sessions are whilst I'm at work, but you never know. Maybe one day I'll also be able to do the free practice sessions. That would be fun. Have a little bit more of a chat as the weekend goes through. Who wins tonight? I was going to put my money on Max Verstappen just because of the conditions and just because I've got a little bit of a weird feeling that the McLaren drivers might get in each other's way. But I think Max Verstappen, having gone deep into turn 17 underneath the safety car, maybe isn't in the best position that he's ever been. And that was maybe a little sign that he's not 100% au fait with this Red Bull car this year in these kind of conditions. Oh, we have got the brooms out as well as the Miami marshals are sweeping some of the water off of the track. So again, something that you'd only ever see in Formula One, right? When have you ever seen anybody sweeping water? It's not really an everyday thing that you get to see. Kimi Antonelli's dad messing around with his car, and Kimi Antonelli looking very unimpressed, I would say. I make great content. Thank you very much. Why hasn't it started? It's been red flagged due to... Oh, sprint race will restart at 12:25 local time. Can you see that? Can you see that? It's here on the screen. Here it is. Can you see my mouse? The restart at 12:25 local time. So 8 minutes we will get back underway. There is still a yellow flag down in turn 17. That might be for some standing water. I can't imagine anything else has gone on down there, but I'll keep you up to date as to what that might be. Double wave yellows in sector 18. Yeah, not sure what for at the moment, but hopefully that'll be all sorted in the next 8 minutes so we can see it. Yes, we see the mouse. Lovely. We will be back underway. Storms can strike at any moment. Unfortunately, it struck at the worst possible time. Hopefully it's done and dusted now. So we will not see any more of this. Thank you, Gamer Roam, for the super chat. £2. Love the video. You know what? I know you've done it now. The super chat, thank you so much. But if you want to spend £2 on the channel, you can become a channel member. And then you get loads of extra free stuff. So, or not free, but membership stuff. You get loads of extra stuff for becoming a member. But thank you for the super chat. What happened? Red flag due to the rain. Oh, we have just had a slight change. The race will now start at 12:28. 28. A little correction from the stewards. Let's hope that they don't push the race back by 3 minutes too many more times. But there we go. And what website is this? This is Multiviewer. God, Multiviewer. They support all of the streams and they give me access to all of the behind the scenes data and analysis, which you can get to. You need a Formula One TV subscription, which if you're in the UK is about £20 a year, maybe not even that, £15 a year. And then you get access to Multiviewer completely for free. You can check it out either linked in the description or just by hitting Multiviewer into whichever search engine of choice you decide to use. Charles Leclerc was on your fantasy team. Ooh, that is a big hit. That is a big, big hit. Hit the like button. Thank you, Sally. Appreciate that. When does this start? We're looking at 8 minutes time at the moment. At least that's what we have been told so far. So the sprint race will start at 12:28 is what the stewards have been currently saying. It was 25, now 28, so it is being pushed back by 3 minutes, but let's hope that that 3 minutes is all that we need. What happened to Leclerc? Hit the barriers at turn 9 on the way to the grid, not even on the formation lap. So collided with the wall, damaged his Ferrari, and out of this one. Although hasn't dropped in terms of his position yet, even though we have technically had 1 lap of racing. So we are down to 18 laps left to go in this sprint race when it does finally get underway. And this is, what Formula One is sometimes all about. We have to wait for an extra 15, 20 minutes, and then it gets underway, and it's all the sweeter. It's the things that you have to wait for. Makes the heart grow fonder. My first league by a long shot, but now I'm not sure. Ooh, that is unfortunate, Onion. Yeah, Charles Leclerc, I had Charles Leclerc in my fantasy team this year as well to begin with, because I thought Ferrari, they'll carry a bit of momentum from last year. Charles Leclerc was so consistent throughout the middle part of the season. Surely he's the one to get. No, absolutely not. Been a disaster for Charles Leclerc so far this season. Disqualified when it came to China, now hitting the barriers in Miami. Hasn't been anywhere near winning any Grand Prix as far this year. Not anywhere close. Is Leclerc back? Unfortunately not. He is not allowed to now take part in the sprint race because we have technically had 1 lap of racing already. Need Yuki to pick up the slack. I think Yuki, the problem is he was having a brilliant first couple of races in the RB, swaps over to the Red Bull, and if anything, he's been slower, right? I'd say he's probably been quicker in the RB car than he is in the Red Bull car. And that's not really what you want to see when your Red Bull is supposed to be your top team and your RB is supposed to be your second team. But there we are. F1 TV price has almost doubled here in 2 years. Oh my goodness. How many euros? That is insane. Oh, I suppose though, are you allowed to watch the races through F1 TV where you are? Because the thing with F1 TV in the UK is it's effectively a glorified timing sheet because we can't watch the races through F1 TV. So it allows you to watch old races. What I basically use it for is putting on a race from 2015, 2016, whatever year I randomly pick as I'm falling asleep. I use it for that quite a lot. I'll chuck on a race from bygone era. Or I will sometimes, watch a race from the past that I remember being good. Hello, just sub. Thank you, Sparrow. Appreciate that. We are on our way to 130,000 subscribers. I haven't checked how many we're on in a few days, actually. Probably 121, I would say. I'd be impressed if we're on any more than that. But who do we have then? Let's get back into the swing of things. We've got 4 minutes until we get underway here. How many drivers are going to hit the barriers? should we do some under-overs in terms of how many drivers are going to drop out of this session? The medical car is actually just making its way around to check the track. It looks a lot better than it did when the safety car was taking the cars around for the formation lap. So it's dried up at least a little bit, and the rain has stopped falling at least. It is just the water that is already laid onto the track, and with it being a modern circuit, it's got pretty good drainage facilities, as we see the Miami Formula One car in the fountain. It's pretty much what most of the cars felt like as they went around the formation lap. Why didn't they make the circuit go through the Hard Rock Stadium? I think it just logistically it would be too difficult to do. And also, it doesn't really make for good racing. You think of the Mexican Grand Prix where it goes through the stadium there, but that you have to have such a slow chicane through the stadium because if anything goes wrong there, the cars have to be going really, really slowly so nothing happens to, the people who are watching from inside of the stadium. It would have been a really cool idea, but I just don't think logistically they'd have been able to make it work and actually have the circuit be anywhere near competitive. Not that it's very competitive at the moment anyway, because they do have to have the chicane down at turn 14 and 15 because that has to go underneath a highway, which again, they have to have that there because the cars can only go a certain speed through that portion of track. In case something goes wrong, they're not going to damage the highway that is above it or anything like that. So that kind of ruins the Miami track as it is anyway. It's your birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday. When is it going to start? We are starting in, hopefully, 2 minutes' time. 2 minutes' time. We have got drivers back into cars. The majority of the drivers now, headrests on, wheels back in place, and ready to go once again. 18 laps of the Miami circuit to come. Lando Norris says light space time. First words they've said today in the chat, just the words Lando Norris. Is that a prediction? Is that a curse? We will never know. Why is everyone except Sainz on Inters? I think Williams just decided to gamble a little bit. And actually, it would have been a gamble had we actually started the race when we did. It would have been a good gamble because it was still raining. So they gambled on it continuing to rain and therefore the wet weather tires having the better grip and the better performance than the intermediate tires. And that would have been the case if it did continue to rain as we got racing. But unfortunately, with it being red flagged, it means that it's allowed the track to dry a little bit, and now the intermediate tyres are definitely the choice. Luckily for Carlos Sainz, under the red flag conditions, you can swap your tyres. So I am expecting Carlos Sainz to be back onto the intermediate tyres before we get out of the pit lane. And I'm just looking for a green light at the end of the pit lane. We've seen tyre blankets are being taken off the cars. Here we are then. The Mercedes team taking the tyre blankets off of George Russell in 5th place as the other Mercedes car of Kimi Antonelli further down the grid in 1st spot. It's going to take them around once again is Kimi Antonelli. Is this... I mean, he is technically leading. So he's been leading now for 2 laps of this Miami Grand Prix. Or maybe won't feel like it for him. Not a lot of racing has gone on. Here we are then. Antonelli does finally make his way out of the grid, out onto the racetrack. Piastri follows just behind. What about Leclerc? Unfortunately, he is, not allowed to rejoin because we have already had a lap of racing. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if that Ferrari car is actually back to the garage yet, like in full. Thank you for subscribing, Francesco Lizzotto. Charles Leclerc finally dropping down the order as the drivers make their way past the official timing line as they go through the pits onto the racetrack. Will anyone else spin again? That's the thing, right? It's still slippery out there. It's not like it's completely bone dry. The intermediate tyres are still the choice. The spray is less. It's definitely not no spray whatsoever. Still going to be tricky for the drivers to see, especially down towards turn 1. Kimi Antonelli, though, will back himself to get down to turn 1 ahead of the 2 McLarens behind and hopefully not be in that much spray himself. The safety car taking the cars around once more. Back onto that final back straight. In the final sector goes Kimi Antonelli. Here we are then. And Verstappen on the radio saying that conditions are raceable now. So there's the confirmation you needed from the current world champion. And we're going to get underway with some racing, hopefully fairly soon here in Miami. We're going to go for another formation lap. Ooh. And the safety car light is on. So it does feel like the safety car is going to come in at the end of this lap. And we will finally get underway with some racing. Not going to be many laps of it, though. 16 laps of racing left to go once they come around again. Piastri on the radio, confirming that it's still pretty tough out there. It's not an easy run around for the drivers at the moment. Piastri just confirming once again that there's still quite a lot of water on the racetrack, and it is going to be quite a tough ask for these drivers. But we are where we are. Standing start is now confirmed by race control. There we have it. I did think so, as the safety car was coming in. And standing start is confirmed as the cars come through towards the final sector. Once again, they're just making their way round turn 13. Kimi Antonelli at the front of the pack, as he was at the beginning of all of these formation laps that we've effectively had. I know that these are technically racing laps behind the safety car, but it's been more like formation laps, really. And the standing start will be the real beginning of the Grand Prix, with 16 laps left to go once they cross the start-finish line. Peter Bonington has guided Lewis Hamilton to so many wins throughout his Formula One career. Is he also going to be the man to guide Kimi Antonelli to his first in Formula One, the youngest pole sitter in Formula One history? Not quite the youngest winner, even if he wins this Grand Prix here. Would have been if he'd done it a couple of weeks ago. But Miami, just that touch later on in the season. Max Verstappen still will have that record of being the youngest victor in Formula One history. But let's see what he can do down towards turn 1 then. Kimi Antonelli is going to start on that first grid position. Just to remind you, in case you're joining us, as the red flag was a bit of a delay, Piastri and Norris will start just behind Kimi Antonelli in the podium places. Verstappen on the second row, though, beside Lando Norris. And those two got to know each other very well last year and will continue to get to know each other this year for sure. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, then 5th and 6th after Charles Leclerc collided with the barriers at turn 10, taking his Ferrari out of the Grand Prix. Before it even started, that was on the way to the grid earlier on, meaning Alex Albon and Isaac Hadjar both start in the point-scoring places for the sprint. Alonso, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Gasly, Lawson, Sainz, Stroll, Doohan, Bortoletto, Behrman and Tsunoda will take to the grid behind the front 8 in that order, running down from 9th to 19th. But let's have a look then down towards turn 1. Can Kimi Antonelli lead the Miami Grand Prix for a proper racing lap? Oscar Piastri's doing everything that he can to make sure that he doesn't. Kimi Antonelli's going to go around the outside, but Piastri's going to push him wide, and Kimi Antonelli has lost the position there. Both of the McLarens through, and Max Verstappen. Antonelli down to 4th place already. Lewis Hamilton and George Russell getting very close to one another. Isaac Hadjar has had the better of him taken from Fernando Alonso. Alonso up into 8th place. Liam Lawson with an incredible start up into 10th, now 9th ahead of his teammate. Liam Lawson absolutely flying as they get underway here. Antonelli on the radio. And Antonelli not happy at all with Oscar Piastri, saying that he pushed him off. I think both of them just went very deep in towards turn 1. And Kimi Antonelli, because he was on the outside, just came off the worst of the two. Antonelli now down into 4th place after starting at the first spot. And then Russell now looking at the back of his teammate. Antonelli squirming around on those intermediate tyres. George Russell then having a look, but the door closed on him. Antonelli stays 4th for now. Piastri leads the sprint race as he leads the World Championship. Lando Norris behind him in 2nd spot. Max Verstappen down in 3rd for Red Bull. George Russell peeling away, trying to get out of the spray of his teammate, and now battling with him. Lewis Hamilton has remained in 6th spot, and Albon still running in the point-scoring places. Isaac Hadjar disappointingly down 2 spots as Alonso and Lawson have been able to get the better of him, because it was a stunning start to this race from Liam Lawson. Down towards turn 17, there's a little bit of chaos. Lots of cars going deep into turn 17, but nobody coming to the barriers yet. Everybody managing to get around. Yuki Tsunoda is up into 17th spot in the Red Bull. As we see, oh my goodness me, Carlos Sainz and Pierre Gasly getting very close to one another. Sainz has been able to get in front of Gasly. Gasly tried to come back at him, but Gasly staying in 14th spot behind Sainz. It is still Piastri, Norris, and Verstappen at the top. Piastri also running away from his teammate at 1.7 second lead already. Verstappen slotting in a second behind, Antonelli too, and Russell was trying to get past his teammate, but is now over a second behind. Lewis Hamilton, the only driver within a second inside of that top 6. Thank you for Pixel Mayhem for subscribing to the channel. DRS, it will not be enabled, no, because it is still intermediate tyre running. So we are not going to see any DRS in this one. But we're still seeing a lot of battles as Carlos Sainz is now all over the rear wing of Esteban Ocon. Piastri on the radio is drying very quickly. So Piastri maybe keeping an eye on the possibility of swapping onto some soft tyres or maybe even a medium tyre, depending on how many laps are left to go. You are allowed to pit stop. Of course, it will cost you 20 seconds worth of time. So is it worthwhile? Will we see somebody gamble? Especially if the soft compound tyres become available fairly soon. You know, they can be sort of a good few seconds quicker per lap. So even though you lose 20 seconds, you can start to gain that back pretty quickly. Oscar Piastri thinking about it possibly, but still leading now. 1.8 seconds the gap. Lewis Hamilton on the radio really finding it tough in that Ferrari, saying that it just won't turn in the way that he wants it to. Disappointing for Lewis Hamilton at the moment, and really struggling to keep up with George Russell ahead of him. In fact, closer to Alex Albon behind in the Williams car. Let's have a little look at Liam Lawson's start. He just seemed to launch it up the inside, and he did indeed. Liam Lawson getting the better of a good chunk of the grid. It was a Stake Sauber car that got a really slow launch. I think Nico Hülkenberg to double. Yeah, it must have been Nico Hülkenberg from that position. Let's have a little look at Lando Norris's on board as he sees both Piastri and Antonelli go down towards turn 1. Both of them missed the apex by a good chunk. Antonelli, though, keeps it on the track. Oh, sorry, Oscar Piastri keeps it on the track. Antonelli pushed wide. And Ollie Behrman can see almost nothing inside of his Haas car as he goes bumping into the Alpine of Jack Doohan, and that was very close to a disaster for Ollie Behrman, but still running, and so is Jack Doohan. Behrman in 16th, Doohan in 18th, and that incident between Antonelli and Piastri has been noted by the stewards. So race control are going to look into that Antonelli versus Piastri incident. That could be an interesting one. I'll keep you updated as to how that plays out. Let's see then. Oscar Piastri, fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. Liam Lawson has a broken visor. His visor is broken and he cannot see. We're on board then with Lawson. Let's see what he means. Visor is broken. You can't see anything at the moment. Maybe it's just vibrating on the helmet and therefore making it really difficult for him to see. There's not like a crack or a breakage in it from what I can see on the onboard. But clearly struggling. Verstappen out of position. There you go. That has been noted too because Verstappen did drop backwards on the formation lap and Ocon was nearly overtaken by Carlos Sainz, but then got the position back once again. The Haas and the Williams going toe-to-toe in 12th and 13th place. His tear-offs, mate, yeah, that's possible that his tear-offs might be sort of steaming up. I mean, he could just rip the whole bunch of them off, but then I suppose he doesn't have any visors for the rest of it. Oh, Max Verstappen. No, sorry, it wasn't. Oh, was it the false start? Out of position. Oh, he was out of his grid box. Was Max Verstappen. And no further action. Okay. Let's have a little look then at Max Verstappen's positioning in his grid box. I think he's a little bit too far forward, surely. Okay. Interesting one. Oh. And Kimi Antonelli going very wide indeed through turn 12, but keeps it together and gets through turn 13, 14, and 15 okay. Piastri has disappeared into the distance a couple of seconds up from Norris. And I think we're settling in now as these intermediate tyres are going to start to struggle a touch. Still a lot of standing water off the racing line, though. As you can see, the cars darting to the left-hand side of that back straight to cool down the intermediate tyres on their cars. It looks like we're not going to see too much battling unless you're called Carlos Sainz, as Carlos Sainz once again goes for the maneuver down to turn 17, goes way too deep. Carlos Sainz just about keeps out of the barriers. I thought that might have been a safety car incoming, as Carlos Sainz was millimeters from barreling his Williams car into the barriers at turn 17, but managed to just about keep it together. Still didn't overtake Esteban Ocon, but at least is still in this race. Kimi Antonelli, 1.2 seconds ahead of George Russell. Has drifted away from the top three, though. 3 seconds off of Max Verstappen, and starting from pole position has now dropped all the way down to 4th place. It's a really frustrating place to be. Just tuned in, is it raining? It has stopped raining. So the intermediate tyres were the choice to begin with. Will we see somebody go for some softs or maybe some mediums? It just feels like there's a bit too much to do in 10 laps worth of racing. Even if you did go for some softs, you'd need to be at least sort of 2.5 to 3 seconds quicker per lap for it to be worthwhile. And you'd still have to make your way through the traffic if nobody else decides to do it. Jack Doohan and Carlos Sainz both having lap times deleted for track limits. And Max Verstappen also complaining about his visor. No visibility, coating on the visor being wrong. And everybody seems to be struggling, not just with visibility because of the spray, but also with visibility because of their visors at the moment. George Russell has just decided that he is going to stamp on the accelerator as well. He's closed into within a second of his teammate. He wants to make sure the authority is still with him inside of the Mercedes team. After seeing Kimi Antonelli pick up a pole position for this sprint race, he'll be looking at his teammate and going, actually, now that you're ahead of me, I'll be able to get back in front of you once again. Piastri on the radio. Drying, but not as quick as I thought. So Piastri seemingly fairly happy to stay on the intermediate tyres and 3 seconds ahead of his teammate at the moment. So, yeah, even though it is drying up, I just don't think the gamble onto the slicks. If you really did nail the switch onto the slicks, like you would be flying, but it's like nailing the exact timing of it. Because even the tiniest of damp patches here or there can be the real difference. And George Russell deciding that he's not going to hang around anyway, looking right at the rear wing of his teammate and not going for it. And Carlos Sainz confirming our theories at the moment that he thinks the intermediate tyre is still faster than the slick tyre for now. Whether or not that will be the case in a few laps' time, we'll have to wait and see. But Carlos Sainz deciding to stay on this, the intermediate tyres for this moment. And do you blink first is the thing here. We've got 9 laps of racing left to go. It'll be 8 by the time you come around for the pit stop. But again, it's going to be very tricky. And Isaac Hadjar has been on the radio to say, you know what? Maybe I can be the one to go on to the slick tyres first. It would be very RB to be the team that goes on to that slick tyre first. George Russell saying on the radio that he's got a lot more pace to give here. He doesn't want to be stuck behind his teammate for much longer. Alex Albon has also closed in to the back of Lewis Hamilton. We heard Hamilton on the radio earlier on in this race complaining about visibility and complaining also about the fact that he just can't get his Ferrari car to turn. Now is really under pressure from Alex Albon, and Hamilton looking backwards rather than forwards, running 6th at the moment out of that top 6. Charles Leclerc, of course, out of the race. And Alex Albon closing in, but not there. DRS has been enabled. So the race control assume that it is good enough for the slick tyre because you can't run DRS in wet weather conditions. And here comes Yuki Tsunoda into the pits. So Tsunoda is the first driver to blink. It is medium tyres onto Yuki Tsunoda's Red Bull car. He is going to fall all the way to 19th once again, where he started. But let's see what his sector times are like, as Oscar Piastri still leads at the moment. Does make you wonder which of the McLaren cars will get the call first. Who gets to decide when and where they come in? But Yuki Tsunoda then. Let's have a little look. 19 seconds off the back of Gabriel Bortoleto at the moment. Keep an eye on Yuki Tsunoda's times as he comes around. Piastri comes around the final couple of corners. Lando Norris has closed in a touch, actually. Has eked out a second or so from his teammate. Max Verstappen doesn't come in, even though the Red Bull team were there if he wanted to. The Ferrari team have also come out. Is Lewis Hamilton going to make the switch? Hamilton, yes, coming in now. Hamilton decides against it. He's had enough of these intermediate tyres. And even though he was running in 6th place, the Ferrari thinks that he can go much quicker on the slicks. It is soft compound tyres onto Lewis Hamilton's car. Lance Stroll has also come in. So this is the turning point now where a few drivers are going for that gamble. Carlos Sainz also comes into the pits as well. So Hamilton is going to be the front runner of the guys on slick tyres. In fact, he's going to be side by side with Gabriel Bortoleto coming out of the pits. Gabriel Bortoleto around the outside does just stay ahead of Lewis Hamilton for now. But Hamilton on the slick tyres, let's see what they can do. Lando Norris has closed in dramatically over the last couple of laps. Was a real chunk quicker than Piastri last lap, nearly 5/10. Now again, nearly 5-6 quicker on this lap again. Norris now getting to within DRS range of his teammate. And Lewis Hamilton has made swift work of Gabriel Bortoleto. Hamilton now up into 15th place. So let's see then. Are we going to see some of the front runners go for it? Hamilton was the driver running in the points who has decided to make the switch. Piastri comes round and continues on. So does Lando Norris. So both of the McLarens are continuing as they were. There are some... Is it Russell or Antonelli coming in as there's Mercedes? Max Verstappen has come in. Verstappen into the pits. And here comes Antonelli as well. So Russell and Antonelli are in. Double waved yellows. Oh! And Antonelli and Verstappen have collided. Oh, goodness me. Antonelli and Verstappen have hit one another. Verstappen's front wing damaged by Antonelli in the pits. And is there any damage to Kimi Antonelli's car as he's coming out now? Oh my goodness me. Albon's come into the pits, Lawson in the pits, Behrman in the pits, Gasly, Hulkenberg doing. And that is why there is a yellow flag being waved. It's Carlos Sainz who is continuing on. Had gone on to the slick tyres with Carlos Sainz, but has a puncture on the rear left. Lando Norris now batting. Oh, and Piastri's gone super deep at the chicane and has had to cut the corner as Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris is going to be on the radio because of that. I don't think Piastri's gained too much of an advantage there, but he'll definitely be talking about that on the Deltas. Here we go then. Is Piastri or Norris going to be coming into the pits, or are they going to try and do another 6 laps on these intermediate tyres? Oscar Piastri looks really uncomfortable on the intermediate tyre right now. Lando Norris doesn't look too bad at all. It's going to be one of the McLarens coming in, and it is Piastri. Piastri gets the nod ahead of his teammates. That's going to release Lando Norris into the lead of this, but still on the intermediate tyre. Lewis Hamilton is up into 8th place. He was the first of those front runners to come in. Carlos Sainz surely is going to retire from the Grand Prix from there. Antonelli is onto the soft compound tyre already as well in 5th place. Verstappen in 6th. Isaac Hadjar and Esteban Ocon have decided to stay out, and it hasn't played for them. Antonelli into the pits once again, I think to maybe get around some damage, unfortunately, on his car after he collided with Verstappen in the pit lane. Russell then comes out of the pits in 5th place behind Hamilton. So Hamilton has done really, really well here. Hamilton now up into 4th place because he got there earlier. And Lando Norris has indeed got onto the radio and talking about Oscar Piastri cutting the corner down there at turn 13, 14. Piastri then out of the pits and is still in 2nd spot. Norris leads, but Norris still on the intermediate tyre. 20 seconds the gap. Hamilton is now making quick work of Max Verstappen. Hamilton goes around the outside, and the 2021 championship rivals swap positions as Max Verstappen's damaged Red Bull drops down into 4th place. And Verstappen is also going to get hit with an unsafe release. noted between. Here comes Lando Norris then into the pits, the final man to swap onto some slick tyres. Oh! And Fernando Alonso in the wall. Fernando Alonso in the wall is surely going to call a safety car. And that is going to put Lando Norris in the lead, surely, because Piastri is going to have to slow due to that safety car. Lando Norris is going to come out in the lead of this race, and it's played beautifully into Lando Norris's hands. Piastri is going to come round turn one. Lando Norris is going to still be leading. Hamilton then in third spot. Verstappen down in fourth. And Albon is up into fifth place in the Williams car. The swap to slicks was vital. And Hamilton and Ferrari coming in earlier than the rest has absolutely played a blinder here. So Hamilton up into the point scoring places. Albon in fifth, Russell sixth, Lance Stroll down in seventh. Antonelli has been the huge loser in all of this, from pole position all the way down to 11th spot. Liam Lawson currently taking some points on the board for RB in 8th place. Behrman also up into 9th. It has been absolutely chaotic. FIA stewards under investigation. That incident between Antonelli and Verstappen still under investigation as it plays out. Lando Norris leading, and Verstappen, I think, is gonna, surely has to get a penalty of some kind for being released into Kimi Antonelli's car. Carlos Sainz on board. Was this the incident for him where he got that puncture? Oh, he hits the wall. Catches the wall on the inside of turn 14. Oh. Just a tiny, that is a misjudgment of maybe 1 or 2 inches from a Carlos Sainz, but it sends his Williams car spinning. So that's what happened to Carlos Sainz. Luckily, he was able to get his Williams, back round to the pits. So it didn't cause any kind of incident other than the double waved yellows. Fernando Alonso, though, not as lucky. Fernando Alonso lost control of his Aston Martin and into the wall, bringing out this safety car. I think we might end under... Oh, and that's why Antonelli couldn't pit. Oh, I see. That's why Antonelli had to pit the lap later. It wasn't because Antonelli had damage. It was because Antonelli couldn't come into the pits to change his tyres, because as he was pulling in, Verstappen was released. And yeah, that's a slam dunk penalty for Max Verstappen. In fact, there it is, a 10-second time penalty for Max Verstappen, which, if we finish under the safety car, would be Max Verstappen dropping all the way out of the points guaranteed. And, that's why Fernando Alonso ended up in the barriers. It was a collision with Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson actually collides with the rear end of Fernando Alonso whilst, you could argue, off the racetrack. Lawson on the outside, comes to the inside, was outside of the racing line. And I think Lawson should really have backed out of that. And therefore, Lawson is surely going to end up getting a penalty for that. And Alonso was on for his first points of the season as well inside of that Aston Martin. So Lawson might drop out of the points, and that'll give Ollie Behrman the chance at scoring points here. After a dismal start to his weekend, he could get on the score sheet for Haas, even though he qualified all the way down in 19th. There we are. Just goes to show it's all about the race, and sometimes qualifying doesn't really mean much. So it is Lando Norris leading behind the safety car, then Piastri just behind. Oh, thank you for the super chat. If Norris wins today due to the safety car, then mark my words, Piastri will smash him in qualifying and the race. That is big fighting talk. Thank you, GameStar70, for the super chat, though. Only fortune can win Norris some races. Oh, fighting talk. I'm guessing you're a Piastri fan. I would just guess, just a tiny little guess, a small inkling that you are an Oscar Piastri fan. Let me know if not, but that would be my guess. Still underneath the safety car at the moment then. Recovery vehicle is still on the track at turn 12 to pick up Fernando Alonso's car. And Hamilton on the radio congratulates the Ferrari mechanics, saying great job with the pit stop. They did absolutely nail it, didn't they? You've got to say the big winner in all of this is most certainly Lewis Hamilton. He's come out rosy in third place. Norris and Piastri, just the pace of the McLaren paying dividends. Verstappen, obviously, with that collision with Antonelli, costing him a lot of time. And let's see then, there is still a recovery vehicle down at turn 12. I'm not going to be super pleased to see the drivers going past that if it still is on the track by the time they get there. We'll have to wait and see, though. 2 laps left to go. Safety car unlikely to come in. So it does feel like this is going to be a race that ends under the safety car. And lucky Lando, indeed, has gained a position on Oscar Piastri due to the timing of that safety car. Will gain a point in the championship as well. Lando Norris still will be second to his teammate in the driver's standings. And the teams go very, very slowly past that recovery vehicle down at turn 12. And Antonelli is still annoyed about Oscar Piastri pushing him off at turn 1, but at least Max Verstappen has been given a 10-second penalty. Antonelli has not had a fun time of it this afternoon, has he? Considering he started from pole position. Not a fun time at all. Moto Hollands, thank you for the super chat as well. Loads of super chats coming in today. Lando's safety car luck in Miami needs to be studied. 2 years in a row. But the safety car has played perfectly into Lando Norris's hands. Maybe it's the ball helmets that he's got going on. He just absolutely nails the helmet game in Miami and is being rewarded for that by the safety car. But here we are then, the final lap of the sprint race. Once again, behind the safety car. Unfortunately, Fernando Alonso's car not able to be moved quick enough before we then allowing us to get racing once more. So it's been a bit of a weird one, hasn't it? Delayed start to the sprint race itself, then a red flag because of the rain, then because of the track drying, everybody had to swap from the intermediates to the slicks. But then, because everybody did it, only the drivers that did it first really got the benefits of it. Gonna see Alex Albon finish 4th place in this sprint race as well. That is a stunning finish once again from Alex Albon and the Williams team, who have really come to life this year, it has to be said. They look imperious. Alex Albon and Williams, when it comes to that midfield battle, just feels guaranteed that Alex Albon will finish best of the rest when it comes to the drivers at the moment in the standings. He'll stay 8th in the championship and increase his lead over the rest of the pack. George Russell in 6th spot will feel pretty hard done by. Was stuck behind his teammate for a little while. Felt like he was losing a lot of time behind Kimi Antonelli, and then also lost out in the pit stops. So he's fallen into 6th spot. Lance Stroll has managed to gain massively up into 7th. Liam Lawson will also get the final point scoring place, at least for now. But I don't know whether that investigation with what happened between him and Fernando Alonso is still ongoing. Surely so. It's going to be investigated after the session. I wouldn't be surprised if Liam Lawson does get a penalty of some kind, which would promote Ollie Behrman into the point scoring places unless this investigation between Ollie Behrman and Nico Hulkenberg is an unsafe release for Behrman, which gets him a penalty, which would then put Yuki Tsunoda into the point scoring places. Goodness me. Max Verstappen gets his 10-second penalty, so he drops down. Lawson and Behrman could both end up with penalties, so Antonelli might end up with a point here, depending on how the investigations go after this Grand Prix has come to a close. But Lando Norris takes the victory once again. GameStar70 with another super chat. Amazing. Piastri right now is like a young Alonso. Fearful of no one, better than almost anyone. Love that. Maybe they foresaw the sprint race ended under the safety car. Yeah, penalising Max Verstappen with a 10-second penalty under a safety car finish. I mean, well, you can see how devastating that is. Dropped all the way from 3rd to 17th. So Max Verstappen with that 10-second penalty, no points for him. And did Kimi get crashed? Yes, Max Verstappen hit Kimi Antonelli in the pit lane. That was what Max Verstappen ended up with a unsafe release penalty for. I mean, it didn't really help Antonelli out anyway. That 10-second penalty still meant that Antonelli ended up in 10th spot. But there are still investigations on Liam Lawson and Ollie Behrman yet to play out. So we will have to wait and see how that plays out and whether or not Behrman will get a penalty for an unsafe release and whether or not Lawson will get a penalty for taking out Alonso. And Oscar Piastri on the radio says he doesn't want to be buying any lottery tickets in Miami anytime soon after another Miami Grand Prix win falls in the favor of his teammate. Could have also won here last year, of course. Oscar Piastri was looking very, very swift inside of that car. Once again, looked certain to win here until the safety car allowed Lando Norris, who pitted latest of anybody. And that should have played against Lando Norris in all of this, but actually played into his favor. And Lando Norris can count himself lucky once again. Lando Norris maybe should go and buy himself a lottery ticket here in Miami because he just seems to be on the right side of things almost every single time he races here at the minute. But I'm going to disappear because we're going to be back live once again for qualifying in just a couple of hours' time. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you could leave a like and subscribe on your way out, that would be absolutely phenomenal. And as I say, I will see you in a couple of hours' time for another, hopefully ridiculous session here in Miami. And we will see, can Oscar Piastri get some redemption in qualifying? Can Kimi Antonelli come out on top once again? Or is it going to be Lando Norris, whose luck continues in Miami in just a few hours' time? I'll see you then. Have a good one. I'll see you in a bit.